This is the last year of Brock Boeser's first NHL contract. 18-19, a two-way contract of $925,000. This is the last year. So, the question here is now, how much does Boeser get in his next contract? How much is the average annual value, and how long is the term? And I think that this is a question that a lot of Vancouver Canucks fans wouldn't really debate all too much about. Because there are basically two options here when we talk about paying Boeser when it comes time to do that. Either we sign him to a short 2-3 year deal, or we lock him up long-term and start giving him the big bucks in 1920. And I think you can't go wrong with either of these. That's kind of obvious considering the kind of player that Boeser is and just the role he has for the team. But I think going either way would be just acceptable. But we have to take a look at what it would be like if we went either way. If we signed Boeser to a short 2-3 year contract just as a prove-it deal, just as a deal that says, hey, we want to make sure that you are as good going forward as you were in your rookie season and beyond. So, let's sign you to a 1-2-3 year deal, and we'll go from there. If it's like that, then I'm expecting a good solid like $5-6 million. Because if we take a look at things, I found this really interesting about Jim Benning in particular. When it comes to the guys that the fans don't necessarily like, the contracts that they get signed to are even worse than the fans' perceptions of these players in the first place. For example, Sutter, Eriksson, Goodbranson, and then even the newer guys like Beagle and Roussel. The fans don't like these contracts for the players that aren't necessarily all too special. But for the guys that are actually good, like Sven Baertschi, like Bo Horvat, the contracts aren't really bad. Sven Baertschi's contract is amazing. Bo Horvat's is arguably a little bit too high, but at the same time, it's one that fans are okay with. So Brock Boeser, if he gets a short-term deal, I don't think it would be a deal that people will dislike. And let's face it, Boeser being one of the best rookies the Canucks have had ever, he kind of deserves to basically get whatever he wants. Whether that be a 2-year deal at $5 or $6 million, or an 8-year deal at $8 or $9 million. Obviously, that last part is a little bit unrealistic, but things can go either way here. So if things do go long-term, then I'm honestly expecting like a $7.5 million cap hit, to be honest. I mean, guys like Stamkos, he's making 8.5, Kucherov's at 9.5, we recently had Tavares signing at 11, Austin Matthews could probably go in that 10.5 range. So, to put Boeser off at a 7.5, I don't think that's unrealistic. You could say, oh, you're overpaying for him. Please. It's Brock Boeser. Really? Is it really overpaying for a Brock Boeser if you give him 7.5 over 8 years? And that's the long-term deal. The short-term deal, I could see it being capped off $5 or $6 million, yes. But it really depends on what the plan is for Boeser personally moving forward. And I think the plan is kind of obvious. Live out the career in Vancouver. I think that's most likely the most realistic situation that we have here, unless 1 year Boeser's like, oh, I'm going to go back to the Minnesota Wild, because that's my hometown team and everything, which is probably not going to happen. I think Boeser very much enjoys his time here in Vancouver, and the fans love him here as well. So, overall, long-term, short-term, he's getting, like, above 5, that's for sure. But I think the biggest thing that we have to wait for is the actual timing of the extension, because Brock Boeser, he's playing his last contract year in the upcoming 18-19 season, and this is going to be just an incredible year. There's so much hype surrounding Boeser because, oh, he's really good, and he was great last year, and we got Pettersson and potentially Quinn Hughes coming onto the team next year, so obviously people are just eagerly anticipating the youth movement and the youth taking over after the Sedins leave. So obviously, it would make sense to wait a little bit, but at the same time, it's the Vancouver Canucks, and we have a really good potential 40-goal young guy that we have to lock up. I'm expecting the contract to be announced this summer. I'm expecting that by the time the season starts, Boeser's contract is already set in stone. And if it doesn't happen like that, I'm expecting throughout the season, something will happen. I don't think we're waiting until June of next year to sign Boeser. I think the extension is going to come right in, and we're going to have an opportunity to keep him, because Brock Boeser is definitely one of the most inspiring rookies the Vancouver Canucks have had in the past, 20 years. So, obviously, we can't screw this one up. And I don't think it would be easy to screw this one up. I trust Benning because with the good players, he usually gives out the good contracts. Whether that be a $5 million 2 or 3 year deal or a 7.58 year deal, I'd be okay with it. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Plus, and that's your Gaming, and bye.